Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the garage. In this video, we're going to be doing some more upgrades to the purple D16 hatch. Boom, there she is. It's kind of torn apart right now. I got the valve cover off because I was in the middle of making a video last night after work, and I come to find out that some of these rockers are messed up, so I had to order from somebody I found on Facebook D-Series forum. So while we're waiting for those to show up, which should be a couple of days, I figured I got some more upgrades. Might as well continue on with upgrades. So what we're going to be doing today is putting in a new radiator and I'll actually keep it on the radiator. We got new radiator clamps. These are Mishimoto clamps. I actually have one installed just to see if it would actually fit, but they look better than these, and probably will clamp even better. And I also will be putting in, possibly going to show installing this MAC valve because I have a 4-port on there now, and I don't like how touchy they are. So I'm going to put a 3-port on it, and I'm going to up the wastegate springs from, I think, a 7 to 10 or 14, 12 or 14 psi-ish. But also one of the other big upgrades we're going to be doing in this video is, let me go get them here, some Truhart reverse mounted tie rods. So this basically, you unscrew this, and this sleeve right here comes out, and you slide this through the knuckle, and then this basically wedges in the tapered fit, and then the tie rod here bolts up from the bottom, because normally the way that with the lowered Civic, the angle of the tie rod is like this, and you want it as straight as possible to try and help with bump steer. Not like I've really had crazy bump steer with this car, but it definitely could be better. I do have roll center ball joints in the front, but nothing in the rear. But every time I bring the car up in the air and look at the tie rods, it makes me want to fix it. So we're going to do that while we're waiting for some other parts. So I think the first thing I'm going to tackle is putting this radiator in. Also, one thing I wanted to mention before we start getting to work, that how much bigger this radiator is. So I have a Mishimoto 2-core in there, and this is just an eBay special 4-core, which you can see is much thicker. And supposedly this is a 1700 CFM fan, but comes with its own shroud, which is nice. I have a 1700 CFM Spall on there, has no shroud, but has these universal metal brackets to hold the fan on. So I'm going to adapt that. So let's get into tearing this old one out, and we'll try and adapt the fans and see if I got to do any modifications, because that's a thick boy. Probably gonna be a geyser. So one thing I didn't mention about this radiator here is that thing only cost $120 with the fan. Or actually $118 it was $5 off, so like just say $125. Compared to this is $230 brand new, and it's a 2-core, and I think their X line of Mishimoto is a 4 or 3-core, and that is $300 and something. It's outrageous. And it's not like I had a cooling issue in this car. It does have the block fill, but it has holes in it. But on the highway, it is a little bit hot, but it's not crazy. This fan definitely helps out a lot. It really saved me. I've never really had any overheating issues with it, even driving around on like 95-degree days. But it definitely could use a little more help so the fan doesn't have to run all the time, hopefully. Okay. Ooh, 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 ooh. Okay, well, I need both of my hands for that. I gotta unravel that, and I think I just got like a spade connector on there. Alrighty, well, I got both of these out. It's actually been a day. I ordered some meat tree plugs, and I've actually still waiting for them to come because I had to cut this off because I forgot I have it hardwired to this relay over here. And come to find out, I actually have these, so I don't need to wait for them. So I'm just gonna snip those on real quick, cut this one and add a plug so it can actually be a plug, and then we'll I'm gonna take both of these fans off, and then we'll get to fitting this up. Just kind of wanted to get a close-up on this radiator here. I mean, for $120, this thing's pretty decent. It's supposed to be 1700 CFM. It's 12 inch versus 13, but it's got the curved fins like the Spall does, and that allows for a lot more CFM flow. It's definitely a nice piece for the money. Alright, now I'm gonna rip these the fans off here. Alright, now I'm gonna figure out how to cut this excess out. So I was wondering how I was gonna cut this, and then I tried a little bit with an air saw, and I got about this far because it's a really old Harbor Freight crappy air saw that has no power. And then I realized, man, a jigsaw would be really nice, and I was, duh, my dad got me one of those a while ago and I've never used it. Every time I need to use it, I forget that I have one. So got it. He even gave me a couple steel blades with it, so we'll see if these work. If not, we'll take a trip to Home Depot, see what happens. And I got my fixture table all set up here, so see how much easier this makes working. Okay. figured this was going to be enough space because you have about a 3/4 of an inch right here that the rib nut wouldn't touch the radiator, but I just confirmed just to make sure. So what I'm going to do now is, seeing how rib nuts need to be so perfect, and I'm usually not very good at it, going to try and do it this way. I did one, now I'm going to put a bolt in. And we'll try the one across. Dang, I put one of the rib nuts in the wrong spot. I'm like, why isn't this lining up? Alright, well I'm going to drill this out and redo that one because I obviously drilled the wrong hole. Grr. Before I mount it, I want to seal up this petcock. Get you a little room temperature vulcanization cream on there, or Honda Bond if you got it, because that's better. That's what this is, the Honda Bond. Pretty decent. All right, so now I'm going to probably take a break, go get some food, because it's lunchtime. Well, it's past lunchtime, and then we'll put this baby in there, and then I can hopefully put the tie rods in today. All right, well, it's actually the next day after I've had lunch today. I actually did come out here yesterday, and I decided before I put the radiator in that I would change the wastegate springs and the wastegate, because it's much easier to press it on without the radiator in there. And actually I needed my dad to come over to help me to put that on because it was too hard to push it on and hold the clamp at the same time. But you know, I figured I'd come out here. It's like a little after 2 o'clock on a Sunday, and I figured I'd come out. I'm going to at least try to slap this radiator in at least today. It's actually really nice. I got the garage door open for once. Probably the first time this year I've had it open. It's almost 60 degrees out. Figured let's get something done. Because, you know, as Young Static says, progress is better than no progress. All right, so we have adequate clearance between here and everything, and when you shake it, it's nice and sturdy. It's not gonna hit. I've got this, you know, clock, so it's not gonna rattle too much. And it looks like it just clears the wastegate, I think. Let me get a light in there. Just clears the wastegate. I don't know if you can see that. Might be able to pick that up on the GoPro. But yeah, awesome. My old radiator had to dent to clear the wastegate. Alright, well, I got it all installed. I put the bottom radiator hose clamp on off camera. The only thing I had to do to this hose was trim off a 1/2 inch so it would give me a little more clearance here, because the radiator, as you can see, is a little more far forward here, which is actually pretty good, pretty decent, because it'll give it a little more air in between the intercooler, so hopefully a little bit more airflow can actually get in there. I ended up having to just straighten this out because I really didn't need that bend in it after I slotted this. And as you can see, it's far enough away from the radiator support, which looks good. And this hose, because it was kinked, I had to cut a tiny bit off, and this pulled the radiator over a tiny bit, so it was almost touching the wastegate, so I slid a piece of rubber with some Honda Bond on the back of it to give it some room for chafing. So now it does touch, but that's because it's touching the rubber in between there. So yeah, so I think that's all I'm going to do today. Tomorrow after work, we'll pick this back up and I'll install these reverse mounted tie rods, and we'll give you a little more explanation on those when I put it in. Alright, well, it's the next day after work, and as you can see, it's kind of a nice day again today. It's like 50-something degrees right now, I think. But yeah, what we're going to do is I'm going to be putting in the Truhart reverse mounted, or it's really what it is, reverse mounted tie rod ends. And basically what this does is, I have the stock one on there right now, and I don't know if you guys can tell, but the arm isn't straight. It's up like this. So that is not ideal for bump steer. And what this allows you to do is to mount these down like this, and it keeps the tie rod straight. And because when you put the car on the ground, the wheels even go higher. So this is even more of an angle when the vehicle is on the ground. So I'm going to try and fix that a little bit. I do have, like I said earlier in the video, I got roll center ball joints, which are 1/2 inch or so taller. I don't know if I can show you. Let's see. Yeah, so you see how they have some extra height right here. So that helps with the axle angle and stuff like that too. But this will definitely help much better. So let's slap these in and see what it looks like, because I'm not going to be able to drive it yet because the car's still not back together, but I just got the part for that today, so hopefully we'll be able to drive it here in the next week or so. 22, 21, 22, 23. So, going to see what the length difference is of these to see if it will really matter if I count it or not. Ooh. It's not like these are bad either. I replaced these not too long ago, maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, it looks to be the same. It's got a little plug in here. Protect the threads, which is kind of nice. But they look to be about the same length. If you match up the ends, and about the center is about in there. So the count to go back on, which was 23, and this is the bottom. 1, 2, 21, 22, 23. Right, and so what you do is you take this pin and you slide that in like this, because this is a tapered hole in your knuckle here. That's where you can see your old sleeve or tie rod is tapered, so that's how it's held in there. And put that in. Okay, guess it doesn't go in all the way. And then you take the bushing that it comes with, and you make sure that the tapered side goes towards the joint. And then there you go. Just had to turn the wheel a little, and the tapered portion is to the joint, and this part stays onto the joint, and then you put your nut on, and then a cotter pin. Never forget your cotter pins. And they come with cotter pins. Tuck those babies in so they don't cut ya, and then we'll tighten this thing up. Tighten the lock nut up. And I'm gonna bring, whenever this is drivable again, I'm gonna take it to work one day and do an alignment. Probably won't show that just because I don't really want to be filming up my job, which I'm sure they'd be okay with. I just don't really want to. Had to get a little extra torquage on that baby. Alright, so now if you can see, the angle is pretty exactly straight almost. It pretty much is. And then this is the nub that sticks out. The light on there. So there you go, you got the nub that sticks out. And that's it. I'm going to install the other side because it's pretty much the same thing and you guys don't really need to see that. And then I think this will pretty much wrap this video up. I don't think I'm gonna show putting in the 3-port boost solenoid just because that's pretty self-explanatory. You know, I guess the only thing I would really show you is if you guys needed to make a cheap bracket, you could get some 1-inch aluminum stock and just put a 90-degree bend in it and just put a hose clamp around it. It doesn't need to be crazy tight, and that's that. You have yourself a nice little cheap bracket to hold your boost solenoid. You don't have to buy one of those ones online or anything like that. You could just go to Home Depot, probably pay less than 10 bucks, be good to go. So I ended up getting the other side all complete and actually realized that the first side, I think I did something wrong. There is no directions for this, but the way that the pin was installed in the first tie rod, the way that like it was sent to me, I figured that might have been the way it comes. But the other one was reverse, and now that I'm looking at it, so I had said that the one that attaches to the tie rod, the bushing that is attached to the tie rod goes on the bottom, but actually I think it goes on the top, and it's probably to prevent this from happening, so this doesn't touch because the other bushing is smaller. But if this one is pretty much perfectly straight, and if we go to the other side, you can see that when it's turned, I don't know if I'll be able to get in there and show you, but when it's turned all the way like it is, either way, it doesn't touch the knuckle. But also, if you can tell, it's pointed down a tiny bit, so when the wheel is compressed, I can't even talk right now, that the angle will probably be perfectly straight there. So I'm gonna switch over the other side here, and then we'll wrap this up. Best part about car parts. All right, well, I got the other one switched around and taking a step back and looking at it too. It definitely is the correct way to go, that the big portion of the bushing goes towards the knuckle. So yeah, that pretty much wraps this up. I ended up polishing the top of this radiator, and it came out pretty good. It's nice and shiny, looks pretty good. So now my next project will be to get back on doing this Speed Factory camshaft, because I got got the hammer on my old cam there. I got this second rocker assembly here that I'm going to take out some of these VTEC rockers and switch them over to my 1, 2, and 3 cylinders, so we can start this thing up and see how the idle sounds with that Speed Factory cam. So if you want to stay tuned for that, hit the subscribe button. But as for now, I just want to say before we go, thank you very much if you're subscribed, and hope to catch you next time for the Speed Factory cam install. Have a good night.